Okay, so we are factoring by grouping. Factoring by grouping means that we have 4 terms. This is what we do when we have 4 terms and we're factoring. Thank you. So we are making sure they're in order. Do they have a GCF? Cut it in half. If there's no GCF, take out a 1. And then the parentheses should match. So we'll get to the bottom 3 in just a second. The first 3 are a lot like what we did yesterday, but we're going to do them backwards. We're going to do 3, 2, 1. It makes more sense that way, I promise. So these are kind of a mix between what we did yesterday, but they're also halfway done for grouping. So they've already been grouped. You just have to find your answer. So what happens is we've cut it in half because there's 2 terms. And what's our GCF here? Think of yesterday. What do they have in common? Y minus 2. So when I take out y minus 2, technically we divide it out. What do I have left? 4x plus 3, just 3. So there's that answer. So we like that. This one's already grouped for us, so we're going to learn how to make it look like that so we can find the answer like that. But this one's like halfway done for you. So what I always say with grouping is when it's halfway done for you like this, do number 1 and 2 afterwards. Are both of them in order? Yes. And do either of them have a GCF? No, so we're good. This is as simple as as factored as it gets. Okay, so look at this one. Cut it in half. What do the 2 sides have in common?
X plus 3.
The x plus 3. And when I divide that out, what do I have left? 5 plus y. So again, I'm done, but like I said, are they both in order? No. What happens to this one? Proper. How would I write it? Y plus 5. They're both positive, so flipping it doesn't change anything. And do either of them have a GCF?
No.
So we're good. That's your answer. So now look at number 1. So what do they have in common? The n plus 1. And then when I take that out, what do I have left? Which is in the wrong order and it has a GCF, right? So I'm going to bring down my n plus 1 because that one's fine. What's my GCF here? Well, let's fix it. So it's going to be negative 28m plus 14 because I can't just rewrite it as 28m minus 14 because what's negative? The 28m. That has to stay negative. The 14 was positive. That has to stay positive. So my first term's negative, meaning I have to take out a negative. What's my GCF? Bigger. My smallest number is 14. 14 goes into 28. So when I divide that out, I'm left with 2m minus 1. So whoever grouped this one did not put it in order and did not take out the GCF first. So that's what happens. Now sometimes if you don't put it in order, it doesn't look like it factors at all. So this person got lucky. Does that make sense? Okay. So now we know what to do when they're halfway grouped for us, but now we have to learn how to make it look like that on our own. So if you look at number 4, we have 4 terms. Okay? And knowing that, we have to make sure it's in order. Is it in order? So remember, order your degree. It's how many letters you have. So you have 2 letters, it's a degree of 2. If it writes 2 letters, a degree of 2. This technically c squared is c times c, so it has 2 letters, degree of 2, 2 letters, degree of 2. Do I need to change anything? No, it's in order. Leave it alone. Don't make your life harder. Okay? Does it have a GCF of all 4 terms? No. So now my next step, number 3, says cut it in half. So when I cut it in half, I want y'all to realize, I draw it between the second term and the symbol. I don't draw it over the symbol. And I'm going to show you why. What if it was a minus and I drew it through the symbol? What does it look like now? A plus sign. Y'all, you think I'm laughing, but there are so many of y'all that write really hard with your pencils or write in pen, and y'all honestly can't tell if it's a plus or a minus anymore. So just be careful with that. Now, once you cut it in half, you have to find the GCF of both halves. So look at just the left side. Just like yesterday, what would we have done to find our GCF here? Well, what is my GCF on the left? A. The only thing they have in common is A. So when I divide out A, I put a parentheses because the opposite of division is multiplication. I'm left with 2C plus D. Everybody okay with that? So now I'm going to do the GCF again on the right side. What's my GCF on this side? Now my first term is positive, so I take out a positive, C. Divide by C, divide by C. What do I have left right here? 2C. Because remember, 2 minus 1, this is technically C to the first power. I still have 1C left. These C's cancel because 1 minus 1 is 0, so plus D. So I found the GCF of both sides. Now it's still cut in half. Do my parentheses match? That means I take it out now as a GCF. So 2C plus D is my GCF, which again, remember, we're technically dividing that out. Now, it's easy to just cross it out and not divide it out. You don't have to show that step. I'm showing you because I want you to understand why we set it up as multiplication, because this is still equal. So this cancels, what do I have left? A plus C. There's my answer. So those are my factors. So if I multiplied this, if I double distributed, guess what it's going to equal? What was given to me to begin with. Okay? So look at number 5. Is it in order? No. So this has 2 letters. It's a degree of 2. How many letters does the second term have? 0. So it's a degree of 0. 1, 1. So the first term stays first. Then I'm going to just do minus 3x minus 2y plus 2. So we just move that plus 2 to the end. Is there a GCF of all 4 terms? No. So we go ahead and cut it in half. What's the GCF of my left side? Just x? 3x. They both have a 3. They both have an x. So I'm going to divide that out because I'm setting it up as multiplication. What am I left with? Y minus, and when everything cancels, what does that equal?
1.
1. Because remember, anything divided by itself is 1. So now we do the left side, or the right side. What's my GCF on this side? My first term is what though?
-2.
Remember, when my first term is negative, I have to take out a negative, but it is 2. So -2 is my GCF. Now these -2's cancel and I'm left with y. And what's 2 divided by -2? 1. So mine might not line up, but you get it. Okay, what matches now? Y minus 1. So I take out my y minus 1. And what's left? 3x minus 2. Now, the biggest mistake I'm seeing, y'all, is people are forgetting to bring down their GCF and put it in front of what's left over. So don't forget to rewrite it just like we did yesterday. GCF, parentheses, what's left. Yes? Okay, so numbers 6 and 7, they both have GCFs of all 4 terms, but I'm going to show you how to do them differently. Because sometimes, do we always catch our GCF? So if you're like me, sometimes you forget about the GCF and you factor it and then you're like, oh, dang it, there was a GCF. Yes? Okay, so look at number 6. Is it in order? No, so we need to put it in order. 2 letters, 1 letter. This has 3 letters. So I just need to move that guy to the front. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to pretend I didn't realize there's a GCF of all four terms. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half and show you what to do if you don't catch that GCF. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's my GCF of the left side? Y squared. What else? What about the numbers? 2. Doesn't 2 go into 4? 2. So it's 2y squared. So 2's cancel, y squared is cancel, and I'm left with a. What's 4 divided by 2? 2, and the y squareds cancel. So that's what I'm left with on the left. Now here, what's my GCF?
2z.
Positive 2z. And when I divide out 2z, I'm left with a. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and the z's cancel. Do my parentheses match? Yeah, so a plus 2, take them out, cross them out. And my other parentheses, 2y squared plus 2z. So what I want you to realize is they're both in order, but doesn't this one still have a GCF?
Yeah.
So you can still take it out. What does this one have in common? 2. So I can take that 2 out, and when I divide out that 2, what am I left with? Y squared plus z, and then I can bring down that other factor, no problem. So that's my fully factored answer. Now, is it okay if I flip-flop these and I had 2 times a plus 2 plus y, or times y squared plus z? Does order matter when you multiply? It doesn't. What's 3 times 2? What's 2 times 3? 6. Did it change? No, it doesn't matter. So if you ever come check your work and the mine are flip-flopped from yours, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, last one together. The nice thing is this one is in order for us, but what's my GCF of all four terms?
X.
Not just x.
Wait.
2x. So I'm going to take out 2x. I always look at my one with the least amount of letters and the least amount, like the smallest number. So my smallest number is 2. 2 goes into 4 and 8, so I knew 2 was my GCF number. And x was my smallest. They all have an x, so I know I can take out an x as well. And when I take that out, I'm left with 4x to the third, because 4 minus 1. 2x squared, 3 minus 1. 2x minus, what's that last one give me? 1. Now, when you have a GCF of the whole thing, it gets kind of weird, like trying to keep it out front. So what I do is I bring it all the way down to the bottom, so it's going to be in front of my answer, and then I kind of ignore it, so it doesn't confuse me. Okay, so I'm going to cut it in half. What's the GCF of the left?
2x.
2x squared. So that leaves me with 2x plus what? 1. Because this matches completely. What about this side? Well, first off, my first term is what? Negative. So I know it has to be negative. But is there a GCF of these? No. If there's no GCF, y'all, you have to take out something, so you can take out 1, which doesn't change anything. So divide by -1, divide by -1. And do you see that they pretty much match almost? So when they almost match, or they do match exactly, that's when you know 1 is your GCF. Okay, so now the negative, 2 negatives makes a positive, 2 negative makes a positive. Now do they match completely? Yes. So I take out my matching pair. And what's left over is 2x squared minus 1. Okay, so that's your notes. There is one thing I want to show you on the practice. So I think it's number 10. It's on the back. So flip to number 10 when you're done copying this down. That's so weird. Grab a new one. And we'll play doctor. The back of your notes or back of your practice? The notes are supposed to be empty on the back. It's the practice that has a back. Okay, so look at number 10. Is it in order?
No.
This is 4, this is 0, this is 5, this is 1. So the 5 has to go first, but what kind of term is that? Positive or negative? So that negative goes out front. Then positive 2m to the 4th, because there's nothing in front, so it's obviously positive. Minus 3a plus 6. Now, is there a GCF of the whole thing? So there's not, but there's a negative in the front, y'all. Anytime you have a negative in the front, you have to take it out. Okay, so we're going to put that negative down here. And the nice thing is when you take out a negative, do y'all know what it does? It just flips everybody's sign. So that makes this positive, negative, positive, negative. However, you could have divided by 1 and it would have given you the opposite. Divided by negative 1, sorry. So now cut it in half and do your GCF. So when you have a negative in front, you do have to take it out every single time. It's a GCF. Okay?